So how can we do that? Well, we can feel, know, trust, and participate in being a loving, inclusive, supportive community. We are all wonderfully made, acknowledging each and every one of us. We can promote self-expression. And without self-expression, life lacks spontaneity and joy. Without service to others, it lacks meaning and purpose. And sometimes self-expression is a little challenging, especially if you feel that you're in the minority, that you are not being listened to. So self-expression, very important. We can understand the 5 principles and follow the 5 principles of Unity of London. God is, I am, I think, I pray, I live. And we can inspire people to make a positive difference in the world, whether it is a kind word to someone that may be having a challenging time, whether it is the clerk at the drugstore, whether it is the person who may be cleaning your driveway. Just make a positive difference for those people. Know that they make a difference in our lives, in your lives, in my life. But we can also provide fellowship and education for spirit seekers of all walks of life. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. So there is a new course, and our Pauline Duncan-Thrasher is doing that course, Practical Metaphysics to help you transform your life and realize your magnificence. Woo. So she's doing 2 classes on Tuesday, beginning March 1st, which we were discussing is just sort of around the corner. We're heading into March. So Pauline is going to do a class from 1 to 3 or from 6:30 to 8:30. So reach out to Pauline at beamazinglyu@gmail.com if you'd like more information or if you'd like to join that class. Today, we have a prayer chaplain, as we do every week after service, who will pray one-on-one with you. And today's prayer chaplain is Dawn. So if you'd like to, if you would like prayer after service, or you can raise your hand, or you can put a note in the chat at the bottom of your screen, and Larry will set that up for between Dawn and you. So please take advantage of that service if you feel called to do so. Prayer. So let's just go into prayer right now. And just close your eyes if you wish and relax into your chair, into your seat. And as we come together this morning, we are grateful for the opportunity to spend this time with our Unity community. In February, our power for this month is strength, which is the ability to endure, stay the course, and persevere. Strength is located in the small of the back, and today we affirm, I have the strength to accomplish all that is mine to do. So as we continue, we bless everyone attending all spiritual gatherings, knowing that there are many paths to the one God. Today, we also bless all Canadians, praying that we have the strength to come together in unity, even though we may hold differing opinions and ideologies. We bless our federal politicians who are meeting right now, trusting that the highest and best is unfolding. We hold peace for the situation in Russia and the Ukraine, praying that calm minds and loving hearts will prevail. We lift up anyone who is experiencing any challenges, knowing that they have the strength and the love of the divine spirit surrounding them right now. We take this opportunity to hold anyone that you may wish in blessings and prayer, and to speak their names quietly into this space. We bless our fellow Unity organizations, Unity in Motion and Unity of Edmonton. And so as we move forth into this day in strength, we understand and affirm that I am one with all that is. And so it is, and so I let it be. Amen. And today's daily word will be shared by Nancy Youngston.
Inspiration. I am grateful to those who inspire me. I admire and respect the sacred calling and work of innovative and groundbreaking thinkers and leaders. The work they have done to forge new paths and lead humanity in new directions inspires me. I've heard inspiration described as the breath of God, an inner quickening. This quickening is mine as I forge new paths and boldly journey forward, creating my life anew. To keep divine inspiration flowing, I make time to rest in contemplative stillness. I begin each day with a prayer for a receptive mind and heart. I pray for the courage and clarity to release my rigid expectations. I live in a state of gratitude for the inspiration that flows from God and the opportunity to share it. From Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. Today's speaker, Pauline Duncan-Thrasher, has been an active Unity prayer chaplain since soon after joining Unity of London in 2012. She's a past director of the Board of Unity of London, and she has completed this Unity's spiritual education enrichment programs, as well as the first session of intensive leadership towards becoming a licensed Unity teacher. Pauline is a certified communications lifestyle coach, speaker, and published author, always focusing on positive choices for living spiritually enriched lives. She just finished teaching her first Unity course online this month. Her next 5-week course, as mentioned, starts on March 1st and focuses on Paul Hasselbeck's Point of Power. With her message today about how to respond to challenges and awaken consciousness, please help me welcome Pauline Duncan-Thrasher.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Before I move into my slides, we were talking about exercise before we began our service, and I came across something that I thought you might find interesting. The doctor told me physical exercise is good for you. I know that I should do it, but my body's out of shape. So I worked out this easy daily program that I do right at work. Monday, beat around the bush, jump to conclusions, climb the walls, walk through paperwork. Tuesday, drag my heels, push my luck, make mountains out of molehills, hit the nail on the head. Wednesday, bend over backwards, jump on the bandwagon, balance the books, run around in circles. Thursday, toot my own horn, climb the ladder of success, pull out the stops, add fuel to the fire. Friday, open a can of worms, put my foot in my mouth, start the ball rolling, go over the edge. Saturday, pick up the pieces, throw in the towel. Whew, what a workout. Now on to the presentation. Few options. Okay. My husband Dan thought that this looked like a curling space. I was aiming for a circle, but I think it looks more like a track. What do you think? And in our track of life, where we learn all kinds of lessons about being strong, there's always a start. A part where we begin. Think of being born. That was our beginning, our human beginning. Think of starting a new job. Maybe marrying someone. Maybe opening a brand new book. All beginnings. Through those beginnings, we grow. We grow stronger, hopefully. Sometimes we grow in wisdom. Sometimes we grow muscle strength. Sometimes we grow emotionally. And through all of that growing, we are learning. Then there's an end. Maybe the marriage ends. Maybe the job ends. Maybe we close that book and get ready to open a brand new book. Maybe someone we love dearly moves on. And guess what happens? We start again. That's life. And we have chances as we live to be strong. Everything that happens gives us an opportunity to grow in wisdom and in strength. From Ephesians 3, that he would grant you according to the riches of his glory to be strengthened with might by his Spirit in the inner person. Like me, you probably spent quite a bit of time watching the Olympics. And we saw people who had persevered for years and years, sometimes coming through huge challenges. Those were athletes. They needed to be strong in spirit. You may not be an athlete. You may be like me, a regular person who spends far too much time in front of my computer. But regardless of what you do, we all need to be strong in our inner person. And we know at Unity that we have what we need to be strong in the inner person. In our families, whether we're the parents, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, there are so many opportunities to learn strength just by our interactions. Do people always act the way we want them to? Absolutely not. Even in the most loving families, you would agree that there are conflicts. Your partner might want something totally different than what you think is appropriate or right or appealing. Choose a movie. Choose a food. Choose a hobby. And you may be on opposite ends of the pole. Can you learn from that? You better believe it. You either learn to stand firm and say, I want what I want now. Or if you're unity-minded and loving, to do some compromising. Sometimes you give in. Sometimes they give in. Sometimes you come together. It's all about learning and growing. And strength is not always saying, my way, my way. That's just being a bully. Strength is often in letting the other person know that they have a chance to have their say. In the midst of all of this learning and growing, there are times when our strength is really taxed. I don't know if you're like me. Sometimes in the past, I counted the pennies, but I always had enough food to eat. always had a warm place to live. Maybe like that little girl, if you look back to your childhood, there were times of sadness when your best friend was your stuffed toy. Maybe like the young woman or the young man. You had times where you felt weak. You wondered if you would ever get through it. And that's not just a matter of age. What I loved about that opening song that Larry chose was that we are all in this together. And we know that not one of us is always strong. This amazing woman who was Catholic until her mid-30s and then became a Buddhist nun gave this poignant lesson. Nothing ever goes away until it teaches us what we need to know. And you might say, no, I don't want it to stay. I don't want the sadness to stay. I don't want my self-doubt to stay. I want it all to be smooth and good and happy and easy. That's not life. That is not life. And the tough parts, the tough people, the tough decisions, even the grief, is all capable of teaching us to tap into inner strength. But it will stay around until we learn from it. And that's okay. Because we learn that sometimes just letting go, breathing in, allows us to find a strength in the midst of feeling sad or weak or angry. There are always helping hands out there. When we were little kids, there was our parents' hand that we held on to, or a finger, or a thumb. Our friends, our buddies, holding our hand when we need it, and letting go when we've held on too long. Hands of all different colors, all different shapes, all different sizes. Sometimes a hand reaching out to help, and we thought, well, I didn't think that person would help me. And lo and behold, you were helped. So in the reaching out your hand to help, you're also being helped. You're also strengthening by reaching out your hand. Helping hands, helping hearts, helping to grow strength. And we have those mountains to climb, don't we? And we know that there are people in our community who've had big mountains to climb. And sometimes there's a big crevice. And you think, how do I get over this? How do I leap over this crevice? How do I get to the other side where everybody looks happy and comfy? Well, you reach out your hand, you hold it open, and you grab onto someone else. And that's the joy, that's the strength, that's the comfort of team. That's the comfort of unity family, which is a family that is wider, bigger, and deeper even than our own family. And then at some point you get to the top of that mountain, you go, yay, yay. And then you start over again. There'll be another mountain. One of my very favorite writers, Khalil Gibran, reminds us that out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls, the most massive characters are seared with scars. And I thought, oh, I'll find pictures of people with scars on their faces. And I thought, oh, Pauline, don't be so silly. The scars are inside. Those are the hardest scars. You know about the scars. You've felt them. You've experienced them. You've gone through them. You are stronger right now because of those scars. And I had to include a Paralympic athlete. Now, this man has 2 prosthetic legs. His scar tissue is stronger than regular tissue. As you might know, or maybe some of you don't, my stepson was born with 1 leg. He has a prosthetic leg that he's worn since he was a baby. And a lot of times I forget that he only has 1 leg. I don't even think about it because he's not thinking about it. He's moving on. Like this athlete, like you. You went through something tough. You built scar tissue, realized your strength, and for heaven's sake, move on. You don't have to keep staying in that old past history of suffering. So strength is moving on. One of my very favorite inspiring women leaders. Don't worry, I will come to Canadian women in a second. But Eleanor Roosevelt, who had to endure so much, including a famous husband who had an affair. And she turned out to do so many wondrous, fulfilling missions that enriched everyone's lives. And this is what she said. So true. I'd like you to read it with me. You better stay muted or we'll get all confabulated, but we do not have to become heroes overnight. Just a step at a time, meeting each thing that comes up, saying it's not as dreadful as it appeared, discovering we have the strength to stare it down. It's not overnight. It's not strength overnight. It's not snap, now I'm strong. One little step at a time. And if you've ever gone through something horrible, grief-fulfilling, sad, you know that you don't get over it right away. It takes a while. But understand that one little step at a time is what matters. And these are Canadian women leaders. I wish that I'd known all about these when I was teaching school, because they are each inspiring. They were all Canadian. Now, Mary Shad Carey, the first one, did end up moving to the United States, but she taught in Windsor for a while. She was born in 1823, died in 1893, and she was the first Black woman newspaper editor in North America. As you can imagine, that was something. She was an advocate for universal education, Black emancipation, women's rights. And at 60, so don't be saying, I'm old, my life is over, I'm weak. I know you don't say that, but don't even say old. She was 60 when she earned her law degree. Second Black woman in the United States of America to have a law degree. Do you think that took strength? I'll bet it did. Doris Anderson. I remember Doris Anderson being editor of Chatelaine Women's Magazine. And yes, it's a women's magazine. Yes, it's a lot more frivolous than a lot of other magazines. She was also responsible for women getting equal rights in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. She was president of the National Action Committee on the Status of Women. And she died in 2007. So she lived much later than Mary Shad Carey. The next lady, Therese Casgrain, 1896 to 1981, was a woman of wealth and privilege, but she paid attention to the rights of other people. She was an activist, a radio host, a political commentator, and the first female leader of a political party in Canada, CCF. I don't know if some of you would remember it. Had leftist leanings, Cooperative Commonwealth Federation. You can see by her look that she was pretty strong in spirit, as were all of these women. Next lady, Adelaide Hoodlus. Adelaide Hoodlus found a way to become an advocate through something tragic in her own life. Her baby son died after drinking contaminated milk. And she wanted education through all the school system about how to have sanitary conditions in home economics classes. She founded the Women's Institute. She worked with Lady Aberdeen, wife of an attorney governor general, to help found not one, but 3 strong committees: National Council of Women, Victorian Order of Nurses, and the National YWCA. She could have just stayed in her grief over her dead son. She somehow took that grief and worked it to become an advocate. You'll recognize Viola Davis because she was finally put on a stamp for Canada. She was a hairdresser. And I say woo-woo as well, because she, brave woman, went to a little rural theater in Nova Scotia. She paid for a ticket, went in, sat down, and she was told, hey, you can't sit there. You have to go where the black people sit. She refused. She was dragged out of the theater and put in jail. And that started a huge revolt. Black people protesting. And finally, listen to this date, 1954. That's not, well, it is a long time ago, but I was alive then. That was when segregation in Nova Scotia ended. And it was Viola Davis who got that going. Larry said, marry 2 acts early. That's not a very spiritual name. And it does sound like a dauntless name. She didn't become an activist until she was 55 years old. Again, if you're over 50, don't be saying, oh no, my life is over. 55. And it took her 2 decades to get what she wanted. She had married a non-Aboriginal man. She was widowed. She had 2 children, and all she wanted was to go back and live life on the reserve. And she was told, no way, you can't do that. So for 2 decades, she advocated. Her own Native community was opposed to her making a fuss. That didn't stop her. And lo and behold, 2 decades later, finally, it benefited 16,000 women and 46,000 first-generation descendants who were able to live back on the reserve even if they had married non-Aboriginal. Next lady, Marie Lacoste Gerin Lajoie, 1867 to 1945. Again, she took her personal challenge to be an advocate. She was a brilliant woman, but she could not attend university in Quebec because at that time, she lived 1867 to 1945. Women were not allowed to go to university in Quebec. Can you imagine it? So she studied in her father's library. She ended up being a driving force behind Fédération Nationale Saint-Jean-Baptiste, a Francophone women's organization that championed education, equity under the law, and listen to this, women's right to vote. And finally, Gaxtulas Jane Constance Cook. 1870, she was born. Kwakwaka Wakwa leader. Her mother was a noblewoman in the Kwakwaka tribe who married a white fur trader. She became a cultural mediator, an activist, a fierce advocate for women and children. She lobbied for First Nations to retain rights to access to land and resources. And in 1922, she was the only woman on the executive of the Allied Indian Tribes of British Columbia. Now, if that wasn't enough, she was a midwife, a healer, and she raised, get this, 16 children. Staunch woman. Why did I take time to show you all these Canadian women leaders? Because they fought fights that were based on the need to help others. They were strong. They stood up for what they believed in. So lest men feel left out, there is one man leader that I will mention in a few minutes. I'm sure that in the midst of their challenges, midst of our challenges, we remember divine presence within. You have been a fortress for me and a refuge in the day of my distress. Psalm 60. Now I come to Peter. I know that Wilda talked about Paul a few weeks ago, and I'm not going to talk a lot about Peter, but if you wanted to copy down any of these excerpts from the New Testament or the Bible, I think I like Peter so much because he certainly was not perfect. He had Achilles' heels. Sometimes he was unsure. If you've read the New Testament, you know that he denied Jesus because he was afraid of being dragged away by the soldiers. I don't know that man. He could be very rash and hasty. Apparently it was Peter who wanted to cut the ear off the soldier. Sometimes he was irritable. Does that sound like any of us? Sometimes he was capable of anger. And yet, read the bottom line. He was gentle, firm, and capable of great loyalty and love. So much that Jesus said, "Thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church." And if we read further, he didn't mean church with spires. I will build my community. So Peter reminds us that we sure don't have to be perfect to be strong. Sometimes we'll feel weak. We can still be strong. And from Buddha, it's during our darkest moments that we must focus to see the light. Because the light is there. It might be a little speck, might be a tiny glimmer, but the light is there. And I chose these two people because I love their smiles. There are lots of little kids smiling and looking sweet, and I'll show a little girl in a minute, but I smile because I have survived everything the world has thrown at me. I smile because when I was knocked down, I got back up. You can say that about yourself. You can look in the mirror and you can say, I have survived everything the world has thrown at me. And when you were not down, maybe you felt like lying there for a while. Maybe you lay there for a long time, thinking, oh, gee. But you did get back up because you're here right now. You are stronger than you think. And this, I couldn't resist. Little girl with a smile on her face, and maybe she's saying, thank you for this little bit of rice in my dish. Maybe she's saying, I'm just happy to be alive. Volunteer, woman, both smiling. The message about strength is love your life. Sometimes we need work gloves. Put on those gloves. Firm our inner spirit. Say, I am strong. I love my life. Because I start, I grow, I learn, I end, then I start over again. With every new adventure are opportunities to be strong. You are strong. Maybe a little bitty strong, but each day you get stronger. Let us go into meditation. I invite you to breathe in. Breathe in the knowledge that life has moments of light and love, that life has opportunities to strengthen your spirit. Breathe in. Hold that breath. When you breathe out, you're breathing out a little bit of sadness, a little bit of doubt, a little bit of weakness. Breathe in, feeling strong. I invite you to consider this message that's on my calendar. I'll show it to you later. I do not struggle alone in the wilderness of life. When I need help, I ask. I do not struggle alone in the wilderness of life. When I need help, I ask. And if there's nobody around to ask, we go within. Divine presence, source of strength. Take the next few moments to consider your own strength. I'll let you know when our time is fulfilled. as you prepare to leave your meditation, know that you have within you untapped strength. It's there. Call upon it. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
Pauline, thank you very much again for that thought-provoking and informative presentation. What sort of one of the things that a couple of things struck me. The first one, of course, is the quote, "Nothing ever goes away until it teaches us what we need to know." And don't we always feel that when these issues just keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back? And, we wonder, it's like, okay, so what am I not getting here that this keeps coming back? And the other thing too that struck me is when you were talking about all of the women that you talked about. On that whole page, there was only 2 that I knew. And I just thought, wow, I mean, what are we missing where we can't acknowledge the people around us that have such strength? So just thank you. Thank you very much for that.
I have a dream of what I wanna be. I wanna be free. That's what my heart keeps telling me. Give me your hand.
We'll find a way.
There's people out there
That feel the same.
if we help each other. I just know we can succeed. We are one, but we are different. We from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. We are every boy and girl. Come together and share our dreams. We'll be amongst the stars, and we know that it's destiny. And we are unity. We are unity.
I do believe. Oh, I believe in destiny. It's up to me to make it into reality.
Give me your hand.
We'll find a way.
People out there,
Let's feel the same.
if we help each other,
I just know we can succeed.
we are one, but we are different. We from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. We are every boy and girl. Come together and share our dreams. We be amongst the stars, and we know that it's destiny. That we are unity.
So now is our opportunity to share of our abundance in the form of a tithe or an offering. We give thanks for those who continue to share time and talents with our spiritual community. We express our appreciation for the benefits that we enjoy. We rejoice in our chance to share of our good to the source that feeds us. And as this says, if you're interested, you can e-transfer your donation to unityoflondon@hotmail.com. You can also send check. Just any sort of payment is appreciated and will be gratefully accepted and used. And so now the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds me. I am the light. The love of God enfolds me. I am the love. The power of God protects me. I am the power. The presence of God watches over me. I am the presence. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Yay, God. And so now our peace song. So have a great day, whatever you are up to this afternoon. And so now we can take this opportunity for a little fellowship, and anyone who would like to comment or have some input on Pauline's talk.